Zamasu meets his ultimate fate by the hands of future Trunks as we draw a conclusion in the future Trunks story arc as we bear witness to Trunks cutting Zamasu in half with his spirit sword. But even while Trunks cuts Zamasu in two, is he gone forever? What's going on, Dragon Ball Super fans? Welcome to my Dragon Ball Super episode 67 review entitled Fill Your Heart with New Hope, Farewell Trunks, leading into the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Super episode 68 in what is the conclusion of the future Trunks story arc. And looking back on it now, it's actually quite sad to see, especially having to start the summer off with such a bang, with future Trunks having to escape someone who looks just like Son Goku. But this draws the end of the arc, guys, and I know a lot of you guys were pretty pissed on last week's episode with Fusion and the Spirit Bomb and Goku using Kaioken. But this episode, I will have to say from the start, the animation was very good. I'm actually quite impressed with the animation, especially having to look back from last year with the animation. A lot of people are often complaining about Super's animation, so the animation has definitely improved. I would have to say the last couple of weeks or last couple of months have introduced a lot of great animation features from the artists and creators themselves, as well as the music as well from Sumitomo. I think that it fit the role of this arc very perfectly in my opinion. And now we draw the end of this particular arc. So again, guys, keep in mind this video will contain lots of spoilers, and the translations were made by Herms98 on Twitter alongside Crunchyroll. So in case you guys want to watch Dragon Ball Super legally, just visit crunchyroll.com and you guys can watch the episode right there for yourselves in full subtext, by the way, so you'll have the subtitled version there for you. So we start the episode off exactly where we left off, with Trunks cutting Zamasu in two, and as we see Zamasu getting split in two, he also begins to laugh in like some sort of like a devious laugh that he has going on, because he knows he's dying, but he still, you know, gives off like this evil maniacal laugh. And we see how Goku and Vegeta are also bearing witness to this, and we see how Goku and Vegeta walk on over, and Goku congratulates Trunks on, you know, doing a good job and destroying Zamasu. And we see how right after Trunks powered down, the sword that he had is no longer there. It's actually the broken sword that he had when the little girl gave it to him. So the power and the energy that was within that sword was that of the Genki Dama. And we also get to see how Goku says that the sword was very similar to the Genki Dama or the Spirit Bomb, and Trunks says that they defeated Zamasu with everyone's help. So we see how everyone is getting together. We see how Bulma and Mai arrive. There were certain shots here that I've noticed right from the get-go that weren't really well animated per se, but we get to see how in closing how everyone gets together and they're congratulating Trunks. This is Trunks' moment, and Trunks begins to look at the sword, and he looks at the sword and says that he wasn't the one to do this alone. You know, he did it with the power of everyone that was there present with him. And then all of a sudden we see like this giant rift open up, and just as we all thought that Zamasu was gonna die, it looks like he's still alive, but he comes back in the form of like black smoke, and it begins to like just completely grow in the sky. And we see how Gowasu begins to panic. We see how the Supreme Kai begins to panic, and we have like these giant bubbles in the sky, and these bubbles begin to turn into Zamasu's face. So we see how Zamasu's face is legitimately like covering the entire sky, and Trunks begins to panic. We see how Android 8 is there, and Android 8 look panicked as well. And we see how Goku is staring up in the sky, and he turns into a Super Saiyan Blue, but he can't really do anything because it looks like there's something going on to where even Vegeta powered up to a Super Saiyan Blue, and they really couldn't hold their forms. So we also see how, you know, Zamasu, he reminds me of Dioboromon from Digimon when he just completely went viral. He's all over the place, and even Trunks himself tried to figure out what the hell was going on, and we see how Goku unleashes a huge Kamehameha into the atmosphere, and again, that doesn't seem to do anything to Zamasu. And we see how Vegeta uses his Final Flash, and Trunks uses his Galley Gun. So all three of them combine their attacks, and they launch it up in the sky, and it literally didn't do anything at all. So the Kamehameha, the Final Flash, and the Galley Gun legit was peanuts compared to this. And we see how everyone was kind of worrying here as to what the heck was going on, because it seemed as if like their attack did legitimately nothing. So we also see how the entire planet is enveloped and engulfed in this like black smoke of Zamasu's face. And we see how the Kaioshin actually told Goku that Vegito used up all of their power while using the final Kamehameha. So it was because of the final Kamehameha that, you know, they were able to defuse. 'Cause I'm guessing here that the final Kamehameha took a lot of energy out of them, which was why they were able to power down way beforehand. So it was the result of the final Kamehameha that took the remaining power of Vegito and forced him to defuse. Now, we see how Zamasu, who's in the sky, begins to attack the ground, which was very funky if you ask me, because we see a bunch of faces in the sky launching all sorts of attacks. But keep in mind, he's still strong, and our heroes are at a huge disadvantage because they can't really transform. So what do? We see how Gowasu and the Supreme Kai held up some sort of a barrier to protect everyone, but the entire city is getting destroyed. I'm talking about like Zamasu from the sky keeps launching all of these blasts that seem to hit, you know, the entire remaining city, and everyone is just getting blown up here. And we see how also in the past, there seems to be somewhat of a reflection. We see how Zamasu's face is also in the sky as well, and that seems to be a little troubling because we don't know as to how in the world he was able to make his way back into the past. But Whis can feel, you know, in his skin that something is up, and Beerus says that Zamasu in the future is affecting the present, and Beerus seems to be very agitated by this because he realizes that something's going on, and he feels that something that's going on in the future right now is affecting the current timeline. And we go back to Trunks, and Trunks can't feel anyone's ki, and since Trunks brought that up, Goku asked if the Omni King is still around in the future, and the Kaioshin said that he should be. So Goku wonders if pressing the button will summon the future Omni King, and it does. And we finally get to see Goku press the button, because obviously enough, they didn't have a choice here. They couldn't transform, they couldn't attack head on. They tried, but it was essentially useless because we have a bunch of Zamasu heads in the sky, and they were pretty much engulfing the entire planet, destroying everything, and actually it was affecting the present timeline as well. So what choice did anyone have here? So we see Goku press the button, and finally the Omni King shows up. Now, what seems to baffle me here is the fact that, you know, if this is future Omni King, does that mean that there are more than just one Omni Kings? Future Omni King, past Omni King, whatever the case may be. Either or, we see Zenchan appear. Even prior to that, Mai was like shooting in the sky. She was shooting her shotgun in the sky, and that seemed to do nothing as well. So essentially Mai's gun didn't do anything, Goku's Kamehameha didn't do anything, nobody's attacks, nobody was, you know, proving to have any sort of effect against Zamasu here. So the future Omni King arrives, and he doesn't seem to know Goku at all, and Goku reintroduces himself to the Omni King, and the Omni King is wondering what's going on, and he says, "This place looks horrible, did you do this?" referencing to Goku, and Goku yells for everyone to get into the time machine, and the Kaioshin and Gowasu, you know, they flee via the time rings, so they leave, and we see how Goku's hugging the Omni King, and the Omni King is so confused. He's just like, what in the world is going on? Because obviously enough, nobody seems to explain to Goku, or at least the Omni King, as to what the hell is going on. So, you know, the Omni King is there, and Goku begins to explain to him, like, all right, listen, like, this is the whole deal, and the Omni King is checking the place out, and he's just like, oh man, this is bad, and Omni King says this world will disappear. So yeah, apparently the Omni King would have killed all of them alongside with Zamasu if they haven't left. So the Omni King was really pissed on the fact that everything seemed to be going in a very negative way, and you know, right then and there we see the Omni King tell everyone, he was like, this world must disappear, and so everyone quickly fled because they knew the gravity of the situation here, and Goku begins to explain to Zeno about Zamasu and stuff, and Zeno was not happy at all, and we see how the Omni King kind of like raises his hands a little bit, and everyone's like, holy shit, and Goku has Kaioshin take him to the present Omni King's place, and we see how Goku, you know, he goes back into the future and promises to take the Omni King to a good place. So there's a bunch of stuff going on, and Beerus actually says that Gowasu should pick a better disciple next time because, you know, obviously enough, it was Gowasu who selected Zamasu to be his disciple, and as Beerus shows up, he says, looks like you had a tough time there, kind of mocking them or whatever, but overall, like, this was, I think, a very fitting ending per se, because we see how even we've learned that the Grand Priest is in fact Whis' brother, but actually he's not just Whis' brother, he's Whis' younger brother. So the Daishinkai, aka the Grand Priest, is related to Whis. So just like Vados is Whis' sister, the Grand Priest is Whis' younger brother, and obviously enough stronger than you know, regular Whis and everyone else. So we see how the Grand Priest asks if this was Whis' idea, but Goku says it was his to pretty much show up and stuff, and now the Omni King has a friend, namely himself from the future. So the Omni King has made a friend, and his ultimate friend that Goku promised was himself. So isn't that kind of wacky to see how Zenchan is just Zenchan's best friend now? It's pretty crazy stuff. But Whis says that Beerus created another alternate world and another time ring when he destroyed Zamasu in his timeline. So we see how there is another timeline that's been opened, and this time travel stuff is now officially beyond, you know, comprehension, because we see how everything seems to be so like discombobulated in the anime, but in the manga it's like completely different per se. But we see how Whis says that Trunks may be able to return to his own timeline after all, being that, you know, Beerus created an alternate world and another time ring after he killed Zamasu. So we see how future Omni King wiped out, you know, Trunks' timeline. They go back, and essentially enough, Trunks is a little bummed out, but Beerus says, hey, listen, there's another timeline, you guys can go back there. So just incredibly crazy stuff involving all this time travel stuff, because it just seems to be so discombobulating in a way, and a little confusing, but at least we have some clarity as to who Zenchan's best friend is going to be, as to who the Grand Priest is, because we were all wondering as to who he was, but we now know that he's Whis' younger brother. And of course, Gowasu later on puts the time rings away, and he kind of takes the blame for this. He's saying that he feels as if this is all his fault because he recruited Zamasu. He feels like he should take the blame for this, and he puts away the time rings. And, you know, Mai wants to stay in the present timeline, according to Herms98 on Twitter, because, again, this is prior to the subs being out. So we know that per se Mai wants to stay in an essence, but overall in general this episode was a telling of the Omni King getting his friend, and for us to say farewell to Trunks. And now we understand that Beerus created another timeline and stuff, so we don't really know what's in that timeline because all this timeline stuff and alternate worlds being created is far beyond comprehension. But Bulma also tells future Trunks and Mai to bring any future grandkids to her. Obviously enough, she wants to you know, see her grandkids per se, and Trunks gets a little embarrassed and whatever. So it's a very fitting end to see Trunks, you know, farewell and, you know, bid his goodbyes. It was an incredible story from the beginning of June up until now. So all in all, and plus the episode preview, in which case I'll talk about in my breakdown review, was very, very fitting as well. But be that as it may, I found the episode to be very entertaining when it came to the Omni King, and because he didn't know what the hell was going on, and Zamasu being in the sky like that, I think it was really stupid, because all we saw was his face everywhere, and I felt as if like that was really, really wacky, and very cheesy and corny to see his face all over the sky like that. Even though he is immortal, we saw how the Omni King just quickly chop cleaned everything up, but the way he was depicted in the sky and stuff, I just felt as if that was a really cheesy way to go out, especially with Zamasu there. But obviously enough, in the beginning he was smiling and laughing. He didn't really die, but once the Omni King showed up, that was it. So the Omni King does have the power to erase an immortal. He erased the entire world. So let me know what you guys think down below in terms of the Omni King and in terms of, you know, Beerus creating another world. But in conclusion, guys, let me know what you all think down in the comment section below and pertains to the episode. Did you guys like the episode? Did you guys hate the episode? What are your thoughts on the animation and the score? Comment down below, guys. Thank you all for watching. As always, I hope you all have a blessed weekend. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell icon to always stay in tune with daily uploads. And of course, if you guys love Dragon Ball in general, make sure to slap a like on this video. Tune in for more, and I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Take it easy, guys. Peace.